Hello, beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza, your host here at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. My guest today walks with the whispers of the soul. What is that? What does that even mean? How do we connect to these parts of ourselves? Are they real? How are we able to follow up on the little whispers to really allow them to guide us through our life? So I am so excited to bring to you today my guest, Caroline Carey. Welcome, Caroline. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Valerie. It's lovely to be with you in connection like this. And I'm really well today. Thank you. I got soaking wet in the rain, walking my dogs just beforehand. But apart from that, very well.
That's interesting. It's raining here as well, and my dog would not go out. I have two as well, and one hates the rain. So I'm like, all right, I guess you'll have to go after the recording. Amazing. So I was just chatting with you earlier before I pressed record here, and I was just sharing with you that just looking at you, your picture, your essence just comes out as being the complete embodiment of the feminine. And I feel that this is such an important part to bring out, like right at the beginning here, because it's just coming through like, hey, talk about this. Um, and you said, yes, there's a story behind that. So now I'm really curious, and I'm sure the audience would like to hear what this means because we have been working so much into the masculine for several decades now, especially that whole time where women were trying to dress like men, talk like men, just so that they can move up on the working scale and be seen as equals and get paid the same. And so we have really leaned a lot, into the masculine. But now this is really the time of the feminine. So tell us a little bit about that and how you're able to just be and exude this beautiful essence of the feminine.
Wow. Well, thank you, Valeria. That's a beautiful compliment. And yeah, I'm touched actually that you've started with this subject. For me, it began at the very beginning of my life. My mother wanted a little girl. She had a son. She had a lovely little boy, my brother, and she wanted a girl. And as soon as I was born, the one thing she said to me, well, not, I don't remember it then, but she has said to me since then, and she's long passed. But what she said about that moment was, I was so happy that you were a little girl. And you would think, well, that's what, and it is wonderful. It's wonderful that she thought that, and she was really happy about that. But what I understood later in my years was that she wanted a little girl, but she wanted a certain kind of little girl. And I was not the kind of little girl that she was expecting, who would dress the way she wanted, be pretty and intelligent and conform to the ways of society. I was a wild child. There is no doubt about it. And I wanted to be outdoors. I wanted to be with animals. I didn't want to wear the dresses that she wanted me to wear, or the lovely little white sandals that she bought from the shops for me. I was anything but that, and she struggled massively with it, and I got into a lot of trouble. I was, it was a bit of a nightmare, really, trying to be the child that was expected of me. So the expectations were huge, and then as I aged, I was compared a lot with my brother, even though he's masculine, he's male. Um, but he was clever at school. He learned to read and write before he went. As soon as he went to school, he picked up the pen and wrote his name. He came home from school on that very first day that he was there, and showed my mom his what he'd created, and she thought, oh, I could have been such a good mom. I could have taught him before he went to school. I could have had him, being top of the class if I'd only realized his capabilities. And so she decided at that moment that I would be that very good student, and I would learn to read and write before I went to school, to be like my brother. So on the one hand, she was saying, I want you to be this perfect little girl. On the other hand, she was comparing me to my brother and wanting me to adopt his ways. And so, this was always a tricky line between us. Like, how was I supposed to manage this? She did teach me to read and write. I wrote in a very poetic way. I made up my own words and language, and developed my own my own ways, if you like. I did it my way because I couldn't do it the way she wanted me to do. And she wanted me to get good grades. She wanted me to be clever, beautiful, pretty, intelligent, be polite, not scream and shout and have tantrums. She got very embarrassed by my ways. And then later in life, I was, well, still at a very young age, I was being sexually abused by an elder in the family. Now, that is, of course, very damaging to the feminine spirit. So I say I was fighting for my femininity. I was fighting for the kind of feminine being that I was, not what my mother wanted me to be, not in comparison with my brother, and certainly not the kind of person that the elder in our family wanted me to be. Yeah. So I was always trying to manage some of these very difficult things that were going on, rather than embracing what was true for me, and living life to the fullest through that.
That's
So
so interesting. How are you aware of all the things that your mother wanted you to be, comparing you to your brother, and all of those things at such a young age? Or was this something that you became aware of later?
oh, I think I was just in reaction at a
Uh-huh.
young age. I don't think I was that aware of it at all. It's in my later years that I look back and I what I call apprenticing to our life story. Like, what was really going on there? What was my original wound? My original wound was this huge expectation on me to be a certain kind of girl, but I wasn't going to be that. And I've been able to pick out through my life significant moments that have taught me and helped me to understand what it was I was here to do, what my soul purpose is. And I am here to bring that feminine spirit through and to encourage and support others to bring it through as well. And I recognize that. And she's fiery, she's feisty, she's got a lot of gifts and talents, and loves beauty, loves creating beauty, even in the ugly things. She's connected to the earth, to the wildlife, to the land. She speaks poetically, writes stories, tells her own story, and doesn't conform to what society would have us be. And that's really important to me. Yeah, I've never worn makeup. I tried it out a few times and just smudged it over my face. I wasn't interested in that. Don't really cut my hair except when my daughter became a hairdresser and wanted to experiment. I've just adorned my body, and not tried to make it into something that the mainstream would have it be. I am who I am, and I don't want to compromise that in any way.
I love it. The entire description of who you are, who that little girl is, and how you've embodied that, it just sounds like such a beautiful poem of something that we can look for, to strive in, and to really connect with our own souls. Like, oh, that's what it sounds like. That's what I could be if I wanted to, if it resonates with me. It just feels so nurturing. Beautifully said.
Yeah, and it's not for everyone. I'm not saying that every woman should be like that, but I think we should find what is innately true for us, and embrace that, rather than worrying about what others think and what others would have us be, or trying to please others all the time. We have our own song to sing, and we need to tap into that and be true to ourselves.
Yeah. I also find it really interesting that you said my mother really wanted a little girl, and I was a little girl. And because I feel, um, me personally, and a lot of people that I have worked with, their wound has been, oh, you were born a girl, and the disappointment because they wanted a boy. Um, well, maybe not the mother, but maybe a lot of times the father, like, oh, it's another girl or it's a girl, as opposed to a boy, which is what they wanted. And so I hadn't heard this from this perspective of like, I was a girl and she wanted a girl. And I was like, oh, wow, that's different. And it's like, but she wanted to be a specific type of girl, not me, the girl that I really wanted to be. So that's really also quite interesting, a different perspective to see.
I think it is, and I'm sure many mothers. I mean, I have three sons and three daughters, so I'm quite in balance with my family. But I know I certainly wanted a little girl after having three boys, and it was an absolute joy. It's wonderful, and but yeah, there are times where we would like we would like a certain sex of child, and we can't control that. But if that's up to spirit, or to just the biology of our bodies to decide that for us. And but whoever we are, whatever the child, it's a beautiful baby, beautiful little sovereign being, and we all learn to love whoever comes through, don't we? I mean, it's inevitable. But yeah, she wanted a little girl, and she got her little girl. But my mother was, bless her. I mean, we got on really well in the later years before she died. I mean, I've got nothing against my mother. She was the first catalyst for me and my soul's growth, and to understand and learn what it was I was here to do. So I really appreciate the fact that she struggled and that I fought and that we communicated the way that we did. I have no regrets about my past whatsoever. I needed that. I needed to build muscles in that way to strengthen my own particular feminine. And if I had been allowed to just be the child that I was and hadn't had to fight for it, I don't think I would have had as stronger muscles as I do around it now. So, it's a blessing. Everything that happens in life can be seen as a blessing if we allow it to be, if we change our perspectives around it.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. Amazing. So tell us a little bit more about your life journey. You mentioned that you had some abuse growing up, and then how did you get to the point of healing from that? What
Yeah.
did you do? What did you lean into?
I don't use the word healing very much.
Okay.
I think it's an overused word.
Okay.
Healing means to make something whole. So
Mm,
I'm whole in myself. And so there were experiences I had that were quite damaging to my spirit and to my soul. Well, not so much my soul, but to my body and my livelihood, and living in a world that was sometimes very difficult for me. My self-esteem got quite a bashing. Um, but I had to go through many, many challenges throughout my life. And what I recognized was that, the in the future of post the abuse, I would be in relationships where I would experience abuse at times. There were some very difficult situations that I went through. And my job there was to stand up for myself, was to make changes, to take actions, to do things differently, to say no when it was appropriate, to leave when it was appropriate, to walk away from some of those interactions that were abusive. And that's how I managed to bring myself back to wholeness, from that abuse, to change who I am now, to change my reactions to things, to not give myself away. There was a lot for me to learn, but of course I couldn't do that as a child. We can't do that as a child. We are victim to others' behaviors. But I did learn, and I did have to go through some difficulties in order to bring myself to that. I had an extraordinary journey, really, when I look back. I got pregnant at 16, and a single mom, but ended up in a relationship, having to leave home. I had to move away. So my motherhood that part of me that was becoming a mother, another really strong feminine archetype, what was really, really struggling. So again, I had to fight to keep my baby. I had to fight to keep hold of that mother instinct. I struggled a lot with that, but eventually came to that place of wholeness as a mother, and a deeper, much deeper understanding of who she is and what she is here to hold and be with. So there was, a lot of mothering for me to do, and a particular kind of mothering as well. Certainly wasn't the kind of mothering that my mother gave me.
Yeah, being a mother at such a young age is just a completely different perspective on
Yeah.
how to raise, how to communicate with that child.
Yeah, I was still a child myself. I
Of
had no
course.
idea. I had no idea how to manage, how to give birth, how to do anything, um, that was necessary. It was all very shocking in a way, and yeah, I could have had better support.
So, how did you begin to really go within with using the plants, the nature to support you?
Oh, I think that came very, very early on. Always wanting to be in nature, always wanting to be at the bottom of the garden, always wanting my animals. I had so many pets. They were such a big part of my life, and I think it was those times really that I connected to my spirituality, because we were brought up. We weren't ever so religious, but my mother put the fear of God into us. We went to church, we went to Sunday school. She was very keen on us praying and being devoted to the church in some way. And I can remember her bringing the Bible to me and making me put my hand on the Bible to swear I was telling the truth, things like that. She brought us up to believe in God as a punishing God. That if we didn't behave ourselves, we wouldn't get Christmas presents, and we would be punished. And so I believed in God, but I didn't believe what she was telling us about God. I had a sense of something much bigger than that, much more, much more loving, and that was my choice at that age. So I just didn't trust her when she was saying these things, and I started to, one of the things she said was that, if you don't behave yourself, then God will be cross with you and your soul won't go to heaven. So I was like, well, what is this soul, and what is this heaven place, and what's the soul in me? I don't understand it, and I wanted to understand it, and I used to ask a lot of questions about the soul. And I recognized that, well, my animals must all have souls, and so when they died, as your little pets often do, they get buried in the garden. I believed that their soul went to heaven, and that they would be okay, they would be happy, and that was great, very consoling for me. But then I was sent to a convent. We weren't Catholic, but it was a Catholic convent. And we were Church of England. And so that was very confusing for me. So all the naughty Church of England girls in this, where all the Catholic girls would go off to their classes, and we were sent off to work with a different sister in the faith. And she would tell us things like, well, awful things really, like we were likely to get pregnant at a very early age, which I proved her right in that respect. But we had to stay away from boys because it would be trouble. And this was in our scripture classes, by the way. And she said some very strange things to us that didn't make a lot of sense at all. But one of the things she said was that animals didn't have souls and they didn't go to heaven. And I remember that the conversation we had around that and being furious and saying, no, that's not true. Animals do have souls and they go to heaven. I know, because mine have died and I felt it. But I was going to prove her wrong. And it was much later on in my life that I had a beautiful old horse that my children learned to ride on. She was very, very lovely. And she lived to be an old age, and she died of old age. And I remember her lying on the ground, and her head was on my lap, and I was stroking her, and I knew she was about to breathe her last. And suddenly she just lifted her head and her eyes rolled and her head dropped back onto my lap with her last breath. And I felt the most incredible energy moving through me. It was quite phenomenal. And I always say I would have fallen back if her head hadn't been on my lap. I had something to hold on to. Took my breath away. And I knew in that moment that her soul had left from her body through me and had gone wherever it needed to go. And I thought at that time, Sister Mary Edwards, you were wrong. I know that animals have souls. And then when my children were born, I was always watching them to see what was unique about them. What was the unseen parts of them that were their soul? What was it that they were particularly curious about or interested in? What were their hobbies and their passions? And I followed their soul's journey, knowing that they had something unique in each one of them, themselves. And so I've watched that. They're all adults, grown up now with their own children, and I still, I think, oh, what is their soul journey, and that's none of my business. That's theirs. That's for them to follow and be with in whatever way they choose. But it's all helped me. All of this has helped me to identify the work I'm here to do as a soul worker, to recognize the innate soul within individuals and to help them, if they want it, to follow particular guidelines as to how they can evoke their purpose through that more fully, which starts at the very beginning, with the very, very beginning of our conception and birth, and right the way through our childhoods. That's where we identify what the soul's calling is, by just looking at the life journey.
That's beautiful. What a wonderful way to just observe your own children and try to see where they're coming from. Like, so, like as you're talking, I'm thinking of my son, who he's 9, and I'm trying to like look like the different things that he has brought to us, right? Like he has brought to our family. And it's like, wow, like this is so amazing. You can recognize the differences between their soul and your souls, or even your husband's, or the dynamics of where you grew up. They're just like so incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so quick to try and get our children to fit into some kind of box, to look at their benchmarks, what their achievements are likely to be, whether it's the very beginning, from crawling to walking to speaking to communications with others. you know are they on track, rather than going,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
their particular interest, and then they go to school. And of course it's I'm not saying anything against schools as such, but I don't think they pay attention enough to the individuality of a child. It's all about, let's get them all working the same way, learning the same things at the same times, and not recognizing that they have different learning skills. For one thing, we're all different in the way that we learn, and I think this is being paid attention to a lot more now. Of course, it just has to be. But as in the past, we were all treated exactly the same, like sheep. It was, yeah, that if you stood out, you were a problem.
Yeah, it's just to program you so that you can be able to follow the rules as an adult in society, but that's no longer serving us. I was an educator for 15 years, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, you just treat everything and everyone this way, and everyone who's out of the box, which is most of them, um, they just get conformed.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of homeschooling with us until they really wanted to go to school. And then they still found their own way through the systems. But the systems are flawed, and we need to recognize that we don't have soul advisors here. We just have careers advisors. What's the career you're going to do? How are you going to make money? How are you going to bring up your families and pay your mortgage? Putting us in the rat race far too quickly, instead of us finding what's truly ours. to do and to be. And that's one of the things that where I've had to, you know, keep working at claiming myself, claiming my femininity, claiming what is mine to do. And it's not an easy path by any means. Yeah.
How did you figure out what your soul purpose was?
By looking back over my life,
Mm-hmm.
by
What
understanding it. Yeah,
what
literally.
what made you decide, or did something happen, or did you come up, like, did you wake up one day and said, okay, let me look back into my life? Like, how did that come about for you?
It's a really interesting one because can I remember a particular moment in time where I went, oh, this is what I need to do? I think it's been a very gradual process. And it's needed to be, because without that gradual process, I wouldn't have created the body of work that I have now, because I wouldn't have those significant moments to look back over. But as a little girl, I loved to dance and I loved to write, particularly poetry. After my mother had insisted that I learn to write very early on. But the dancing was very particular for me. I think my mother it was suggested to her that I went to dancing school because I could never sit still. I was always active. And they said, you know, let her channel this into the dance. Well, she sent me to ballet school, which was quite rigid. But I was happy in that because I needed to move. I needed to be dancing, and that was okay. And I had a little record player at home that I put my little tiny records on, and would play the same track over and over again, dancing to it. I think I had about 3 or 4 little records, and that dancing it helped me to feel secure in my body. It helped me to find out who I was. It gave me a connection to something bigger than myself, and it carried on into my adolescence. So I would be dancing in my bedroom, shut the doors, draw the curtains. I'd just be dancing away, and I'd go to the youth club and dance. But all the time I'd be asking this question, what's mine to do? And with this, always having a faith in something bigger than myself, God's spirit, universal energy, the divine, the source. I've called it so many different things throughout my life, but it was always there. And that's probably because as a little girl, I was brought up to believe there was a God. But it wasn't a male God sitting on a cloud to me. It was in nature. It was around my animals. It was something was there, and I was so in touch with it. That the dance helped me to channel that more fully. And then when I was much older, 20, 30, whatever, going to the conscious dance groups that I went to, and I trained to be a 5 rhythms teacher, and I'd be dancing and dancing for hours and hours and asking that question, what is mine to do? Who am I in the world? And that was the biggest question I ever had, which is why I asked it of my children. Not that I asked them, but that was the question in my mind. Who is this child? I wonder what they're here to do and to bring into the world. In fact, when I was pregnant at 16, one of my aunties, who was very kind to me at the time, whereas everybody else was a bit annoyed with me, angry with me, to say the least. And she said she had this conversation with me, and I can't remember what she asked me, but it was something about the baby, and I said, I think this baby is there's something really important about why this baby's coming to the world. And she said, oh well, all mothers think that about their babies. And I'm, oh, okay, thought no more of it. But thinking in my mind back to that moment when I said that to her and remembering it, I think, yeah, some part of me knew there was a soul calling here, or a mission that this baby had in the world. It might not be something really big or mega, just a little thing, a quality that he was bringing into life. And I knew that. I knew innately that happened. So I trusted it very, very deeply. And that's what's got me through my own journey always. I'm going through this, and there's a reason for it, and there's a purpose to it, and it will give me something in the future. Yeah. trusting that, really, really trusting my life journey where that's concerned. And yeah, I think that's, being creative with that. Probably gone off a bit off track here because, but
No, it's lovely.
yeah, being creative. I think quite often our soul speaks to us and through us from us being creative, and being in connection with the land,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't. It's the unseen force within us. Yeah, it's not the planning. It's not the thinking things through. It's not the analyzing. It's those creative moments, whether it's just in a conversation, we're creating something here, whether it's a dance movement, whether it's doing a painting. I've got paintings going on and bits of my work that I'm creating and making things. That's where my soul really speaks to me and shows me what needs to happen next. I trust that.
Yeah, it's the heart. It's more like you're connecting with the heart and soul, not so much the thinking mind, which to me, the thinking mind is the programming.
Yeah.
I must do, these are the steps, that's the solution, right? As opposed to what does it feel like to be doing those steps? Oh, I don't really like it. I mean, how many people go to school, college, graduate school? Not saying that it's not a good thing, but I'm just saying you go through all the steps, you get a job, and then you find yourself in that 9 to 5, same thing over and over. And it's like your soul dies. Like, what am I doing here? What did I strive for? Why did I do all these years of schooling to get here? And now I still don't feel fulfilled.
It's an interesting dilemma, and I think that we go through our life journey, and for some children, going to school is deeply painful, and they struggle with it immensely, and others thrive in it, of course. But I think that we go through our life journey, and if we have the willingness to look at it and go, okay, that this is, there's been struggles here, there's been particular challenges, there's been a reason behind that. What am I fighting for? What am I trying to reclaim into my life? And we get to a certain point, and this is why I tend to work with people, mainly women, around the time of their menopause, and their later years, because I think we're at a point then when we can look back on our story and say, oh, this is what happened. This is what happened to me. This is the journey I've been on. Not to look back on it and say, oh, what a shame. Oh, that was awful. That should never have happened to me. It's just part of our soul's journey. The soul comes to earth knowing its own contract and what it's going to have to live through. And we have to forget. We have to forget, live the journey. And then we get to a certain point in life where we go, oh, hang on a minute. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what it's all about. It's taught me a lot. I understand life from that perspective, and those achievements or experiences. But where have I come to now with that? And how can I use that to benefit others? So it's quite often we find that we're facing the wounds, we're facing the core wound, we're facing the challenges and the suffering. And we're looking back over and saying, well, what can I do with that now? And can I be of service in some way to others in my community or the environment or whatever it is? Can I be of service to people who might be suffering the way I used to suffer? So my abuse, my being single mom, my or all the difficulties that I've had to overcome, I can now be in service to others who have experienced the similar things, those who are fighting for their femininity, those who really want to be who they truly are. I have a map to help them pick up those pieces and go, hey, I want some of this. This is what I need in my life. How do I do it? How do I break free from what has been offered to me from the mainstream, from society, from what we see on our phones, from the computers? What can I do that is right for me now? Sometimes we need some guidance with that. And sometimes we'll just find it and begin it.
For sure. It's interesting that you said mostly with women who are getting to their menopause years, which is the later part of life. You've done your work, your business, raising your children might be out into college or out of the house, and it's almost as if we've been living through life by
Yeah.
doing, and not having a rest where we can go within and feel like, what else is there? What else do I do? But then once the kids leave and then you get to that time of age, you have the space to finally take that breath and begin to look within.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we do have that. We also have the incredible energy that menopause gives to us.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic time, a very potent time. We get in touch with the true power that is held within us. It's not comfortable, it's not easy, but as women, we really get to know what we're here for if we give it space and time to recognize it. And of course, what happens then is that society says, oh, the pharmaceutical companies or whatever say, oh, take this tablet, take this, dampen down those feelings. You shouldn't have those because, likelihood is you're not going to get in touch with your power. Why would we as women be discouraged from listening to our power source? What's that about? I think we kind of know women have been shut down for hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah, the wise women, the witches, this wonderful phrase, the cunning folk, those that were the herbalists, the medicine women, the midwives. So much has been squashed down, and it's coming through again. But we need to be in touch with our power source. We are the keeper of the bloods. We hold on to the bloods. And the word menopause, I really question because it doesn't pause. Pause is like when you press the pause button on, on something. Oh, it's going to start again. But no, it's not. It's meno, stop. It is, we hold the blood then. We don't release it anymore, just like we hold the stories. So the matriarch, she holds the stories of our lineage, of our ancestors. She holds the stories of our own life journey and her sisters' journeys. Yeah, and we're here to start to be the enchantress, to share those stories with others, to express what is true for us. Yeah.
I love this perspective. I really would like you to go more in depth on this whole menopause thing, because the way society has painted it is like, oh, you get to menopause and now it's like a loss, right? You're no longer able to bear children. Your hair starts to get if not silver, although many people get it much earlier, um, it starts to lose its vitality. Your skin starts, it's like all of these things. If you look online, it tells you like, oh, these are all the symptoms of menopause, and you're going to go through these changes, and it really is negative as to like, okay, that means you're old, and not in a good way. Um, Yet those of us who have gone through this and we have found the power, like, whoa, like no one told me this, and like being able to really bask in that inner power that everyone's been telling you that it doesn't exist. And now you're in the space and able to really feel for it. So important also that you mentioned like people are giving you drugs um to continue to keep you passive.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So talk a little bit more, if you could, or expand a little bit more about the beauty and what it means to go through that stage in um, tuning into our feminine and tuning into our feminine power.
I remember asking my mom how it had been to have her menopause, and she says, "Oh, I didn't even notice it; just happened." And I was struck by that. She didn't use any products or anything. She just, oh, it just happened. And I thought, well, my mother wasn't exactly in touch with her body. So she would have brushed aside hot flushes or anything like that, and pretending it didn't exist. And so from hearing her say that, I absolutely knew I was going to be very conscious through my menopause. I was going to feel it. I was going to get to know exactly what it was all about. I'm 13 years post my menopause, and when I first stopped bleeding, And one of the things that I did was I made a collage with my lots of imagery, but with my last blood as well. I used that to create from it a really amazing documentation in a way of where I'd come to in my life and the shattering of illusions that it held, and that I was entering my elderhood, and I wanted to enter my elderhood as a wise elder, as a matriarch, as somebody with wisdom and a really deep understanding of what was happening to me and the changes that I would go through. So as I reached menopause, I got creative. For 2 years, I went very quiet with my work. I didn't work like I used to. I still had a couple of teenagers living with me. And so, I was still being mom and looking after a home and doing some of my work and writing a lot. But I really gave myself some time to listen to what was happening to me and being very conscious and awake of that. I had the night flashes, the night sweats. I had, I went to bed with a towel. I did all the things that women have to go through. And I embraced that. That was the important thing for me, was to embrace it, not to go, oh, this is horrible. This is messy. Oh, what will my husband think? This isn't very pleasant, is it? I don't want this going on. I wanted to feel it, to let it come through. I knew that I was detoxing a lot with those sweats. I was cleansing out some of what I didn't need anymore. I was holding my bloods. I was listening to the dreams and the thoughts that went on in my mind and the creative spirit that was there in me. I was opening my heart to every experience and wanting to know what is the value of this. And then, to feel the heat, that incredible heat, the way it makes you throw your clothes off, like to stand there naked and allow that fire to burn through me. Like, where was that coming from and why? We can give it all kinds of medical names and understandings, but for me, it was like, no, this is me as a woman, like really coming into my power, my feminine power, not power that we might think of as a more masculine force, but power as a woman, who has birthed her children, who has done all the work that she's done, who has danced herself free of so much conditioning and continues to do so, and who embraces life to its fullest and connects to the land and the mother that holds us and nourishes us on a daily basis. That was what was important to me at that time. And then continuing that, it doesn't just stop there. I was 50. It didn't just stop. I was still feeling those experiences and emotions and rage well into my mid-50s and onwards. I still knew that my body was processing a lot of stuff. And then it was in those moments, in that dream time, that I was saying, what is mine to do? What is mine to do now? I know what it's been to do previously with bringing up my children, welcoming my grandchildren, doing the work that I love to do, bringing the dance to my communities, writing books. I've written 7 books to date. And I love the process of writing and sharing all of these experiences, a lot of shamanic medicine tools with others and crafts that I had developed. So sharing all of that with others. And now I was coming to a place where, okay, now I really need to sit with this and ask, what is it that I have gathered to me? What is it that is my medicine bag? What is it that I have to contribute to society and be in service to? I want to see that really clearly. And from that, a map developed from all the stages throughout my life, looking at my life as archetypes and resources, as dwelling places and tools and loads of creative stuff. And I started to write it all down and draw it and map it out, right from my conception, right up until that present moment. And I from that, I created a whole body of work. And I was like, wow, this is what you've been wanting to show me all this time. This is what my life has been about. And it's still growing and developing, of course, because we don't just develop something and then go, oh, right, that's it, done that. It has to develop constantly. But I saw the value of myself, not just as a body, as a woman, but as everything that I had accumulated, every experience I'd ever had. And I'm bringing that to the table and say, right, here I am, make use of me. I'm here to be of service with my own gifts and talents. Yeah.
That's lovely. I I have like no words like that. It's interesting because at the very beginning, when you started speaking about you being you, and I said, "Oh, that sounds like such a beautiful poem." And then you're like, "I've been writing poems all my life," and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like it's just like everything you say just sounds so beautiful and poetic and in harmony with the earth. It really does. I don't know if you can, like, I can see that, which is different from other beings and other people that I've interviewed or other people that I speak with. It's just the way that your words flow are so in communion with the earth and with being and being grounded. I just love your energy.
Thank you. Well, if you think about it, because my mother insisted so much on that writing and that putting things down on paper in that way, that I couldn't do, that I struggled so much with, and I began to write poetry because that was the only language that I could articulate in that way. That's how I learned to develop my own poetic way of speaking and understanding life. I was never academic in any shape or form. I could not understand what teachers were saying to me. I still can't, to be honest. If I go and study something, I've got to find my own way with it. I've always had to find my own way. Back then, if they knew what they know now, I probably would have been classed as ADHD and given tablets or something to keep me quiet. Who knows what would have happened? But thankfully, I didn't. I wasn't diagnosed. Although I think my mother kept trying to ask, "What is wrong with her? Please, doctor, show me what's wrong with her so I can fix it." But that didn't happen, and now I probably would get a diagnosis, and I think I am on the spectrum. There's no doubt about it. But I learned to use that as a superpower, if you like. I learned to find what my gift was through the just the struggle of having to try and do what my parents wanted me to do. I became a poet. So my writing is poetic. My language is poetic. When I'm fully embodying my own spirit, it's poetic. Yeah.
And your dance probably is as well. I
Oh,
can feel that.
absolutely. The dance is very poetic. Yes, it is. It is. It's so connected to our dreamer quality, to our dreamer archetype. When we're
Mhm.
dreaming something through, the body will have its own language, and our writing will have its own language. Our prose will have its own language, our creativity. It's allowing ourselves to free up from the body and the mind and portray what's needed out there. It comes from the soul, not from our thinking mind. Yeah. So freedom from what we think things should look like and the way we think things should be is really important. Yeah.
What would you recommend for people um, for this new year? I know we're still, some time here in 2024, but for the new year, what would you recommend for people to lean into or look into if they want to connect more with their inner power or their feminine side, whether they're male or females?
Yeah.
Um, what would you recommend they
Yeah.
look into or engage into?
Um, well, I would say trust your inner being, trust yourself a bit more, what your intuition tells you, what your imagination tells you. I would say connect more to the land if you don't already. Connect to the spirits and the ancestral stories of the land around you, not from some far off culture, country. Like focus on what's here right now, even if you live in a city. look for the the trees and the little grasses and flowers that grow up between the pavement slabs. Listen to the elements. Know what is your own spirit calling, just from being in connection to the land, to the spirits that live within the trees and the shrubs and the earth and the stones and the rocks, because they have the knowledge that we need at these times. Listen to rhythm. Rhythm is really helpful. Even if it's just the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Connect to children. If you can, play with children, watch children, be in communication with them and their natural ways. Be curious about life. Children teach us to be curious. And one of the things that adults lose very, very easily is their curiosity. We need to be curious about, what's around us. And the environment. And to be respectful. I think to be respectful of the world, the land, the earth, the animals, what we purchase, what we nourish our bodies with. Be respectful of your body and your heart. Give it permission to be kind to itself. So don't fill your bodies with junk. Your body is part of nature. It has its own spirit and its own life force. And if we let go of that and just treat it like it's some kind of mechanical vehicle to move our heads around the planet with, we're not respecting it. And respect how we treat the world with our rubbish, with our pollution. Respect, be curious, be kind, and more trusting. I think more trusting of just the breath that we breathe in. The word breath comes from spirit. It's Latin word for breath is spirit. So if we're trusting that, then we're trusting the life force that is all around us. When we breathe in spirit. And all this talk of spirituality, like, well, what is spirituality? Or it's some kind of gods, goddesses, or some new age philosophy or whatever. It's just what's around us. The biggest entity around us is the air, is the oxygen that we breathe. We can live without food. We can live without water for a short while. We can't live very long without breath. We need the breath. And when we breathe deeply, we start to feel more. And because so many of us have been traumatized in our lives, or we've been neglected, or we've suffered, our natural instinct is to hold our breath. That's what we do. Hold the breath, don't feel. And that's what stops us from being able to heal, to really be able to heal from those experiences, because we're not engaged to spirit. We're not engaged to that life force that really matters. And so we've lost spirituality. We've lost the sense that there is something taking care of us. There is something that we are connected to. We've just become very small and narrow-minded. We've forgotten that we are beautiful spiritual beings here in this body, and needing to find what ours is to be in service to. So trust your breathing. Breathe deeply. Allow the feelings to arise. Move with them. Dance with them. Express them. Trust your heart knows what it needs to do. Get into community as much as you possibly can. Be with others, not those who are going to say, oh, don't feel that, you shouldn't feel that, you're all right, it's okay. So those who just let you be yourself and express what is yours to express, not blaming others, just this is what I need to move through. And that way you're inviting spirit in, you're inviting your spirituality back. You don't have to believe in something. All you have to do is be in connection to the natural forces around us.
Beautifully said. And tell me, Caroline, where can people go and find you? How can they connect with you?
They can find me on my website, which is middleearthmedicine.com. Nothing to do with Tolkien here. Middle Earth came way before Tolkien. In fact, Tolkien wrote his books from the original language, which was Middle Earth connected to the Middle Ages. And that's where our stories became lost. Yeah, these kind of spiritual stories. And you know, I'm all about reclaiming a sense of what is truly ours on this land. So middleearthmedicine.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I use all the social media. What a great gift from Spirit that we have this beautiful connection. We can connect with each other here, that you know, we can be in communication with each other. I know it has all its shadowy, horrible stuff as well, but you know, I was somebody when I very first started offering dance classes and the like, I used to have to make my own flyers, stick them in envelopes, stick on the stamp, post them up in libraries and shop windows, and now I can say, here I am, this is what I offer, this is what I'd like to share with you today, and just put it out there for others to see all around the world. So what a gift it is. And yeah, so I think people can find me quite easily, and I'm
And I'll
really connect with those who want to.
Amazing. And I will put, of course, all of your links in the description.
Thank you.
So if you didn't have a pen or pencil, just go down to the description. You can find all of her handles so you can connect with Caroline. Thank you so much, Caroline, for coming to my show and sharing your lovely energy. It's just such a breath of fresh air.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Valeria. And yeah, blessings on your journey and your podcast.
Thank you. And with that, I'll let you go. Have a good rest of the day. Bye bye. Well, thank you so much for being here and staying till the end. Her energy is so lovely, and I really, really love this energy. I specifically made this to come out around this time, which is right about the holidays coming up, because her energy really embodies the feminine part and who we are. And I'm hoping that this will help you during this time of reflection. The end of the year is coming up, during this time of gathering who you are, what you want to be, or who is it that you really are outside of what society is telling you what or who to be. Maybe this will help you a little bit with that. With that, please like, subscribe, and share with as many people as you feel would really benefit from this channel, the content on it, or even this episode. I really would appreciate it because that's how other people are able to find it. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.